with us is we have two very esteemed guests, Mr. Dema Tio, he's from Vibease, and Miss Erin Chen, and she's from Lila Sutra. And today we're going to talk about sex. Thank you for joining us, Dema. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm Dema, co-founder of Vibease. Vibease is a smart vibrator that you can control using a smartphone. The reason I did this is, in the beginning, I was in a long-distance relationship with my wife. I was in Boston and my wife was in Singapore. Well, to be honest, for guys, for long distance, it was manageable, right? But for women, I think it's a little bit more delicate, right? Although we kind of connected through Skype and all chat messaging system, but something is really missing, which is the physical intimacy. So I was looking for like a solution that was easy to use and not invasive, but I couldn't find anything that was like, so for what I need, right? So I found like a product for the porn industry. Basically, like they have a webcam and like a big like device, which I think my wife's going to slap me if I'm trying to use that. So I thought like, oh, maybe I just did a fun project together with my wife, and she was just laugh about that, and I did that. So the first product that we launched, it was meant for long distance intimacy. So basically, like anyone can control the vibrator from long distance. It doesn't matter, like in the same city or it's like different country. And when I built this together with my wife, it was really focused a lot of women, right? So of course, like a lot of people was like, hey, as a guys, how do you come into like vibrator business, right? It's for women. And that's why I'm doing this, because like I didn't know anything about women's orgasm in the beginning, right? And then when I started to do some research, then I was like, wow, actually like there's so much thing I didn't know about women, and that's why like I'm really interested in working on this. So, but I guess that's like a quick intro. I think I can move on with Erin first.
Okay, well, everyone, why don't you share with us what is Lila Sutra?
Lila Sutra.
Lila Sutra.
So Lila Sutra is a sexual wellness company.
Okay.
And I created it because, you know, in Asia, not just in Asia actually, in most societies, sex is kind of taboo. We don't talk about it. We hardly learn about it in school. Most of our learning comes from, you know, peers or relationships or porn. And that creates a big problem because, you know, there's a lot that we don't know, how to pleasure ourselves and also with each other, with couples. So I created this company to provide workshops for women and couples so they can learn, they can talk about sex in a way where it's fun and it's not intimidating. And also I curate certain products that are healthy, that are of quality, and educate people around how to use those products also. And in the end, it's about providing, you know, and promoting happy and healthy sex.
I see. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Will sex feel the same postpartum?
That's it. Yeah, that was one of the questions on the app, right? What will sex feel like postpartum? Do you want me to go first?
Definitely.
Okay.
For sure.
I think, you know, everything is unique to the individual, so you won't know. But in most cases, it will feel different, and that's just because, you know, biologically our bodies change, our bodies age, and the birthing process is a really big change to the female body, right? It's like it's like going through a major surgery. You know, your body needs time to heal, and so depending on how soon after birth, it will very much likely feel different.
I see.
And there's certain things, and we'll probably talk about breastfeeding and stuff, and there's certain things where our bodies is just naturally changing that will impact how we respond sexually. So for most people, it will feel different, and that might not be a bad thing.
That is also true.
Yeah.
Now I know a lot of women who ask these questions. How long must they wait after delivery of the baby before they have sex with their husband? And I think a lot of husbands wants to know as
well. So there is the medical answer, and then there's the answer that is specific to the couple. So medically, you should always, you know, ask your doctor because they will check if you've physically healed.
Right.
Usually it's about 6 weeks, but for some it could be longer.
Right.
And usually this is when the men are like, oh, okay, you ready? Let's go. But also there's a lot of other factors
Right.
Around readiness for sex.
Okay.
So for the female, it could be just mentally her body has changed a lot, and it takes time to adjust to that. And there's no timeline to that. Some women take 2 months, some women take a whole year.
Right.
It depends. Some women are also quite tired.
Right. Yes,
After
that is
birth,
also
that's a
true.
big
Yes.
thing.
And with the adjustments of the baby, the
Totally.
nursing,
Yeah.
yes. And also the body just doesn't feel the same way.
No.
You spoke about breastfeeding earlier.
Yeah,
So
your
how
body is
does-
not
yes,
yours
how-
for a while.
How does the breastfeeding, I mean, if you're nursing a baby and here you have your husband touching you and there you are leaking milk, how does that work, in terms of the sexy portion?
So some couples like it. Some men
Really?
like it. Yeah, some men like it. And some women are, indifferent or they like it. And this is some of the questions I think from the app. Some women, for them, their boobs aren't really sexual during that period because it's meant to feed. Yeah, and some of them get embarrassed because it's like spraying and for those people who don't know, like the boob, the nipple, there are many. It's not just one hole. Sometimes we
Many
think it's one hole.
ducts.
There are many
Right.
ducts.
Yes.
And so it really just sprays
That's
that
true.
and while we're breastfeeding, biologically, our hormones are different. They're in a different combination, which does impact our sex drive. Do you want me to go into it, or do you want me to save it for the
Sure,
breastfeeding thing?
go right ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a bit of like a science
Good.
thing, but it
Yeah.
might help because I find a lot of times providing facts, it helps people realize, oh, that's normal. So when a woman is breastfeeding, there's this hormone being produced called prolactin, and that's the hormone that stimulates our breast milk production.
I see.
And at the same time, it also creates a sense of bonding. And so for the woman, a sense of bonding and intimacy kind of is already fulfilled through breastfeeding.
Right.
And another one is, as we're breastfeeding, oxytocin is also produced,
Okay.
which is what they call like the love hormone.
Right.
It's
So
also
they feel happy.
So they feel happy.
and they're bonded.
Yeah, exactly.
Except with the wrong person.
Except with the baby and not their husband. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same hormone that's released when we orgasm.
Right.
It's not the same feeling,
Right.
but biologically.
I see.
Yeah, and
I
Mother
see.
Nature does that because
Right.
we need to care for our babies.
Right. Right.
So it kind of, has us bond to our babies.
Right.
So that's kind of what's happening. And at the same time, our estrogen level is very low, and estrogen helps lubricate
Right.
us. So when our estrogen level is low, our vaginal walls are also very thin. So when you don't lubricate and when your walls are really thin, sex can be painful.
Yes.
So when you add all of that together, plus you're tired,
Right.
it's very understandable why.
So it's a little bit unattractive for the mom.
Yeah, it's painful
Okay.
and she's tired and she's having some sort of fulfillment, with the baby already.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean mentally she doesn't want sex. It just, the normal arousal patterns that we're used to is not the same.
Well, then that leads us to the next question directed at Dema.
Yes, that's the
And so, how would you suggest that the fathers initiate or cultivate an environment so that the mother would be a little bit more willing to cop out, so to speak?
I guess for the husband, the main thing is that I understand like once women give birth, like they are a little bit insecure about their body, right? So the husband first need to assure her, right? No matter how your body looks like, I still love you and I still want to have intimacy with you, right?
Okay.
That's you have to keep giving this assurance until like the wife feels like, oh, okay, it's okay, right?
Okay.
And then the husband definitely need to understand like, well, women
So I'm gonna be taking some notes. Yeah.
Hey,
Give us
see-
your right. Okay.
See, you might not ready, right? For
Alright.
like obvious reason, like Erin just mentioned.
Right.
But at the same time, husband also needs the wife to understand. I need to release this, right?
Okay.
So vaginal intercourse is not the only option. Like there's
Right.
another way you have to do it together.
Okay.
But of course, this have to be communicated really clearly, right? I guess for husband and wife, when it comes to sex intimacy, the main thing is communication, right? So as a husband, you cannot expect, oh, as a wife, you should know, like, I need sex, right? so that's a lot of the taboo stuff, right? But I guess for the wife also have to say like really nice, not like say, oh, I have a headache, maybe tomorrow kind of thing. Like it's kind of like the communication is not clear, right? But if the wife says like, look, I just have give birth and there's a lot of these things happening, right? And it's not only my own feeling, but it's based on medical, my hormone, whatever thing.
Right.
So then the husband like, oh, he also like tries to learn about women, right? That's I think that's the good thing. Yeah, definitely like the couples can work something out. If that's definitely like that's a better way to do it.
That's a really good point. Around sex is not just vaginal sex. Because I think there is this misconception, or we always think sex equals penis and vagina. But yeah, it's true. There could be many other things around, sexual activities that can create intimacy and allow the husband to release.
That's
Would
right.
you like to share some? For example, do you have any examples in mind?
Yeah. So one thing that's quite common is called like a sensate exercise, sensate focus. So you can Google, and there are different exercises that come along with that, and that's usually really helpful for couples postpartum because it takes the pressure off of the need to penetrate or orgasm, and it helps the woman kind of ease back into intimacy. I think there was one question they're asking, whether it will be painful, because there's a fear, right?
Yes.
Something just came out of me.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, there is this mental fear whether or not it's real. And so the exercises start off very slowly. It's all about just physically enjoying touch without, ending up with penetrative sex. And then you move on to something else. So 1 week you can just focus on kissing. Then the next week you can focus on, just massaging without massaging the genitals. And then you build on that.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very good advice. Yeah. Okay. Now, you talk a little bit about, the vaginal walls being very thin and that it's very dry. And how do we ensure that there's a flow? Because you're right, because otherwise it does become a little bit painful with the penetration.
Yeah, it can be very painful.
Yeah. So what advice would you give women then?
Definitely lubricant is your best friend.
Okay.
Lubricant is always your best friend. But in this case, it is your ultra best friend.
Okay.
And with lubricant, I have
You have a sample?
Yeah, this one is an example of a lubricant. So with lubricant, one thing to know is a lot of the store-bought ones have glycerin and parabens in it. So parabens are like very bad
for you. Yeah.
Glycerin is almost like a sugar compound, so it'll give you yeast infections.
Oh.
Yeah, so when you choose a lubricant, choose one that is organic.
Okay.
And this one is water based. But for mothers who really need something to help with the glide, I would recommend silicone because that will just it's very long lasting.
Right.
And then once you finish, make sure you wash it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is quite organic.
Yeah, just make sure you look for an organic brand. So for example, this one is called Sliquid.
Okay.
And so all of their products, that I carry are organic.
Okay, so they can purchase this.
Yeah, they can purchase it online. There are lots of shops that carry them.
I see. That's really good advice because I know a lot of new mothers, as they're breastfeeding, they're very careful what they ingest and what they put on themselves. So this is really good.
Yeah.
Okay. So now moving on to from mothers who've just given birth, now we're going to move on to mothers who've had children for a long time. Do you have any children?
Me personally, no.
No,
But
okay.
I've met a lot of women through my workshops.
Right. So I have 2 kids, 10 and 12, and I have lots of friends, and
Yes.
and a lot of times when the kids are like toddlers and you're running after them, it just gets tiring, and you have to do housework, you might work.
Yeah.
So how do we, and then of course we come home, and then the husband has the needs, and how do we then bridge the gap? Maybe Dema, you would like to take this question. And these days, husbands travel a lot for work, and even the wives as well. And so, with couples being separated so often, how can we satisfy ourselves?
Well, that's a good question. I think this is one of the reasons like I created Vibease. So I was working like in an investment bank as a software engineer. I never thought about quitting my job like selling a sex toys, right? But during my research about Vibease, long distance, intimacy, what is important for women, I realized like, oh wow, actually like there are so many couples out there are looking for a similar solution. It's not for kinky stuff, but it's really to maintain their relationship. My advice for long distance couples who always travel, of course, like Vibease will help, right? I mean, like, and we not just build like a remote control vibrator, right? When we build this, we even build a text messaging system because the main important part is that we want to build intimacy, which is like you have to talk to your partner first, right? You have to communicate. It's not like you just press a button and then like I have to teach a lot of guys like when I created Vibease, it's not just for you to keep pressing the button. They always like, oh, this is some sort of like PlayStation,
Video game.
Video game. And I say like, no, this is not how you use it. It's you have to build like communication. You have to talk to her, right? And the guy even have to ask for permission. Can I send you a vibration? Only when the girl says okay, and then you can send a vibration. So the main thing here is intimacy.
How does it work? So the girl is she has something inside her?
This is the product, right? Erin definitely can
so
help me.
I have a live demonstration.
We can have.
This is a vulva puppet. It is anatomically correct. So this is our outside, and that's the clitoris head. So how would someone wear it?
I think you can help me with this.
This is the Vibease.
Yes.
Okay. So imagine this is our vulva. So let's say if you're standing up, it would probably look like this, right? So you would wear it in your underwear, like this.
Yes.
So in the front part of your underwear, and this part will vibrate, and it will hit your clitoris head. Or you can wear it in your underwear this way.
I see.
And the same thing, this part will rest.
Oh, so you could wear it in two different ways. I see. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
Which is thank you. That is a thing. I have to say, when a lot of people when they learn about sex intimacy, to be honest, they learn it from movies, right?
Right.
We know what kind of movies it's like movies.
Or romance movies.
To be honest, it's more like a porn. Right?
Yeah.
To be straight point is most men learn this from porn, although no one's going to say that, right?
Right.
And in porn is basically it's basically just to portray how to satisfy the man rather than women.
Right.
So it emphasizes about the size, how long the stamina, all these things, and it's all about the penetration. It's about insight. And this gives an impression to guys is kind of also pressure, like, oh, I have to perform as good as this, right? The thing is, people don't really know that porn is a movie, right? So it's like they have to do many cuts to make it like it looks like half an hour, right? And the guys that doing this is probably like so-called athlete, like they're already like trained to do this, and then they probably like take a lot of drugs to make them like last really long. But not many guys knows that, like they have pressure on that. So when Erin just now shows like the clit is important part that's really important, right? And I'm surprised that a lot of guys, I was one of the guy as well. So we always think like, okay, inside is important, but when I learned that actually the more important part is actually outside, right? And the good news to a lot of guys outside, if you know where to hit the button, which is the clitoris, it's like size doesn't matter. Which is the good news. Right? So as long as you know where to stimulate, I think that is good.
Right. Oh, fantastic! So once the lady is wearing that, and then the gentleman, the husband has to communicate. He has to ask permission, and if the wife gives permission, then he could press button and so-called service her that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter whether she's in town or not. He could just do it remotely.
Yes.
Wow, guys, Christmas is coming. This is an ideal product to buy for Christmas present.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. I'm gonna tell my husband.